Hey everyone, Jeff here from the RevitKid.com. Today I'm going to shift focus a little bit. If you haven't noticed, over the last couple months I've been focused pretty heavy duty on presentation techniques and rendering and graphics and so on and so forth. I'm going to shift focus a little bit towards the end of the year on Dynamo. And reason being, I'm going to have another special type of enrollment of my DIY Dynamo course, which is a beginner's course on Dynamo. So those of you who have ever wanted to learn Dynamo and haven't quite gotten there yet, this is definitely a course for you. I'm actually going to do something a little different this go around, where I think I'm going to be I'm definitely going to be having a live online class session. So not only will you get the fully recorded 4-hour modules of the course, you will also have a 4-week once a week class session with me. I've noticed in talking with previous students that it's something that they've desired, and so you can be anywhere in the world and learning Dynamo with the Revit Kid, so that's kind of cool. So anyways, even though we're switching courses to Dynamo, this one tutorial is sort of tied back to presentation techniques, and it's pretty cool. It's a nice simple one, but shows the power of what you can do with Dynamo. And what we're going to do is actually place 3D room tags in our models using Dynamo. And this comes in handy for specific things. For example, making axonometric presentation views. You guys may have found some techniques like placing your room names in Photoshop, or you can create a room name sort of view and place it on top, or use text in Revit. This is pretty cool because it actually will create the room names in your 3D axons. The other benefit, which is a little more pragmatic and less presentation, is we use this a lot for things like Navisworks, BIM 360 Glue, Assemble, Synchro, anything where you're taking a Revit model, you're exporting it into another program or platform where maybe it's not necessarily reading your room element, that box that you get, the way that you would want. So if you want your information to carry forward and you want to be able to see your rooms in 3D, for example, this is extremely valuable. So for coordination, Navisworks, for quantity takeoff and 4D sequencing and Synchro or Assemble, this has become extremely valuable. So without further ado, here comes the tutorial. If you guys like this, please subscribe and give me a thumbs up or comment below. If you're here on YouTube, if you're on the blog, make sure you check out the other blog posts and related links that I have down below. I'm going to link everything down below that I talk about, and I hope you guys find some value in this tutorial. So let's get into it. Okay, so first what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through the script and then show you how I created it. What you see here is actually an axon floor plan of a house, and what you'll notice is that these room names and numbers are actually three-dimensional. And so let me just select all of these. I'm just going to delete those. I'm going to open up Dynamo, and here's the script. So this is a simplified script. The more complex version, and I can get into it if you guys are interested in it, is takes into account phases, but this one is just taking all rooms in the project, so whatever current phase your view is in. So what I'm going to do is actually going to pull this to the side a little bit so that you can see when I run this script what happens. So we have our floor plan, we have our model built. If I go to my first floor, you can see I have rooms. I have rooms in this model, and what this is going to do is going to take the center line of those rooms, and what by center line I mean the actual reference point. So you know that X that happens in your rooms, it's going to use that as your point, and that's where it's going to place our family, our 3D family I should say. So now I click run, and it's going to do a little bit of chugging, and you'll see right away, and just like that you could see it automatically placed, look at that, there's a typo there, it automatically placed our 3D tags. Some of these you can't see, I actually moved them after the fact, like for example this one is actually, the dining room is underneath the furniture, so we can move that afterwards, but you can see what it does is it automatically places it. So as I mentioned before, this can be valuable for visualizations like the one you saw in the thumbnail here, or also for future uses. So for example, BIM 360 Glue or Navisworks or any other program. We've used also for Assemble, we use it, where you want to actually see that room data in a 3D view where maybe you don't get the room element. Okay, so let me undo that and let me jump back into Dynamo, and we'll talk about how you can create this script today. And actually, before I jump into the script, I'm sure I'm going to have a bunch of questions on the actual family. So let me show you what that family is and how you can make it. So if I just place it right now, we use generic models just because we couldn't really decide what category we want it to be. For you and your project and your template, it may make sense to actually determine what category makes sense for you. But let me just jump into this family and show you what it is. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. It's model text. And so if I select the model text, you can see model text 1. I'm using the same type for both. I think the floor plan is probably easier to see. But now the key here is if I select my, I'm not sure why these are grouped. Let's ungroup that. Probably for the sake of moving easier. So if I select my model text, you can see what I can do is I can actually assign the text of my model text to a parameter. So that's all this is. So if I was to create another piece of model text just to show you how it was from scratch, I select that model text. Normally, right, you can click here, you can type in, you can say, hey everyone, etc. See, hey everyone. But if you want to be able to control that in the project environment, you hit the little button next to your text here, which is associate family parameter. And you can create a new parameter, or you can use an existing one and make it an instance, and I'll just call it test for now. And then that actually gives the ability to change it in the project. So if I go back into my project and I select this 3D text, you'll notice I can actually change this to hey test test. Oops. There we go, test 222. I always use 222 because that tends to be the widest numbers based on certain fonts. But we can change this here. And so this is just an instance parameter that we're able to change. So now when we're using Dynamo, we can just feed text parameters back into that. So that's pretty much how the family is set up. It's basically just two pieces of model text with two parameters associated with them. I do have a parameter set up for line spacing. If I dig into that, you can see there's line spacing, the text height. So when you select model text, you can modify the text height, or you can also associate a parameter. So I tried to associate as many parameters as I can, including the material. So pretty straightforward. If you're really interested in family creation, feel free to check out my blog at therevitkid.com. I also have an entire video series, which I'll link below, where I do nothing but talk about family creation. So let's jump back into our project now. Here I am in 3D. So now we're going to jump into Dynamo, and I'm going to sort of walk through creating this script. Okay, so I'm going to close this and start from scratch. So I'm in Dynamo 2.0 something or other in Revit 2019. For the most part, it'll be the same. It may look a little different to you because I actually, first of all, always switch your stuff to manual. Don't ever forget to switch to manual. My library is actually was minimized, so that's why it might have looked a little different to you. It all depends on how you work. I'll leave that open because I know some people get a little confused when I do the minimized. Okay, so we're going to keep this pretty simple. I try to make this as simple as possible. So there's two things we need to do. First, we need to get all of our rooms, get our room locations, and then we need to get the numbers and names from those rooms. So how do I do that? Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a categories parameter. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to select all of our rooms by category. So one of the things, if you take any of my Dynamo courses or checked out any of my tutorials, one of the things I like to explain to new users of Dynamo that are trying to learn it is initially just think about how you would do it with a mouse and keyboard. So if you were to select all of the rooms in your project, one of the ways you could do it is right-clicking the room object and say select all categories, visible categories in view or whatever. And so we're going to kind of do that same thing. So first we want to set this to rooms as our category. So we're going to use Dynamo to select all rooms in our project. So there's rooms. And then we're going to use all elements of category. And so what I'm doing here is I'm actually right-clicking the canvas. You could also search over here. I actually kind of like right-clicking the canvas. So if you're interested in understanding all the different selection methods, I do have a free Dynamo cheat sheet that you can download today. It'll be linked below. And what that is a nice little 11 by 17 sheet that you can print out or keep digitally, depending on who you are. And it sort of breaks down all the different selection methods, from all elements of category to all elements of type to all elements of whatever. So there's different selection methods, and it kind of breaks down those. So this is pretty simple when you think about what you're doing with your mouse and keyboard. You're selecting all rooms in the project. So all elements of the room category within your project. Okay. So now that we've done that, the first thing we want to do is we're going to need to get the location of that room. So room.location. And you can see it says get room location. So if I type that again over here, even if I just search room location, one of the cool things about Dynamo is that even if you don't know the name of a node, if you start searching what you want to do, a lot of times you will get a node that works for you. Sometimes it's trial and error, but sometimes you'll get what you need. So we're going to do categories, all elements of categories in room.location. So pretty straightforward now. We've just selected all the rooms and we got their locations. Perfect. So now before we actually place our 3D room tags and put the data in them, we need to extract the data from our rooms. So we're going to need a couple more nodes. Now there's a couple different ways you can do this. If we want to extract the room name and the room number, we could approach this with 2 nodes or a variation of 2 nodes. But I'm going to use 2 get parameter value by name nodes, because this is meant to sort of introduce you to this concept, and I don't want to get too complicated with list management yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one of the most powerful nodes in Dynamo, which is get parameter value by name. Get parameter value by name and set parameter value by name, or set parameter by name. Those are probably the 2 most powerful nodes in Dynamo, and I'll link up a couple of blog posts where I talk about them down below. But basically the foundation of even the most complex Dynamo scripts will most likely include at least one of these nodes that we're going to use. So what does this do? It's pretty simple. We're going to plug in our rooms, so those are our elements, and then we're going to extract a parameter name, a value for a parameter. So what's the parameter that we're going to extract? I'm actually going to double click for a code block, and I'm going to type a string. So I'm going to use quotations here. And we're going to extract the room name. Okay. So now we've taken all of our rooms. Okay. We've selected them all. So that's what this is going to do here. We've gotten their location. And now we're going to get their name. And if I create one more get parameter value by name. Oops. Try that again. Get parameter value by name. I'm going to add another code block, and I'm going to say number. Plug that into my parameter name, and then plug this elements into here. So let me try and make this a little legible. So now what are we doing here? Here we're selecting all of our rooms. Select rooms. All rooms. All rooms. Okay, here it's pretty obvious, but I'll add a little something there. Get location of rooms. Right? Here, this little group. By the way, Control G is group if you wanted to know that. Here we are getting name and number of rooms. Okay, so I think this is the nice way to understand and learn Dynamo, is understanding what the steps of these do, because then it sort of makes it a lot easier to follow and understand. That font is huge. I'm sorry, but I need to shrink that. Okay, much better. Okay, so we've selected our rooms, we've got our location of our rooms, and now we've got our names and numbers. Perfect. So that's basically all we need to do with the rooms. Now what we need to do is we need to figure out, okay, what about this 3D family here? Okay, so because we have a very specific type, we're actually going to use a node that's out of the box that's very simple called family types. And what this does, so I'm just going to search for family types. What this does is it allows you to select every single family type in the project. So instead of going through the process of selecting by category and then filtering out a type and all that good stuff, we're just going to go right in and we're going to select our 3D room tag. And there's our type right there. Perfect. Okay, now we need to place our family in a location. So what's nice about this is you'll notice the output of our room location is actually a point. So if we have a node that exists that allows us to place a family by a point, we're good to go. So what am I going to do? I'm going to search for family by point, and you can see this family here, or this node, it says place a Revit family instance given the family type and the coordinate in its space. So if I click this, guess what? We have an input of a family type and a point. Perfect. So now if we plug those two in, we've already placed our families. I didn't run it yet, obviously, so this one is going to be select family type, and this one right here is going to be place families. Okay, so let's actually color these differently. Okay, so these are family things happening with blue. Okay, so at this point, if we ran the script, we got all of our rooms, we got the locations of the rooms, we took the names and numbers out of the rooms, and then we placed a 3D family, which we created, which I showed you before, in the location of the rooms. Perfect. One last piece we have to do is now we have to take this information from our room, which is our name and our number, and we have to feed it back into those new families that we just placed. Okay, so really simple. We're actually going to use a node that I just explained before, which is an extremely valuable one, which is set parameter by name. So first we were getting the parameter value by names. Now we can actually set them. So I'm going to search for set parameter by name. There it is. And I'm going to place one more. For some reason my copy and paste was being funny. So that's why I'm typing instead of copying and pasting. And we're using two because we have two get parameter lists here. We have a name and a number. And remember, I did not want to get too heavy duty into list creation. So the nice thing about this is I named my parameters the same. So if I jump back over to Revit and I place that family again, just so you can see, name and number are the same parameters. So what's cool about that is we can actually feed in, if we wanted to, we can feed in these code blocks. And when we tighten everything up, it just helps to have only one code block here. So our name is going to be our parameter name, and our number is going to be our parameter name. And then the outputs, because remember, this is where we got the information. The outputs of our name is going to be the value of our family. And then last but not least, what is our elements? It's going to be these family instances that we created. Okay, so let me try and run back through that again. I'll try and make this a little visually easier to understand here. Let's see. I know sometimes when nodes get crazy, it can be a little confusing, but okay. There we go. So coming out of this node is going to be a list of our new created 3D families. So we're feeding those into this parameter set, or this node set, and we're saying, I want you to change the name parameter of this new family to whatever the name is coming out of this node set. Okay, so we read from the rooms, we get the names, and then we place them into the new 3D tags. And same thing here. We read from the room, we get the number, and then we place them into this new 3D tag. So if I group these, this is going to be set name and number of 3D tag. Change this guy to blue, change it to 14, and there we have it. So really quickly walking through it again, the first thing we did here is we selected all of our rooms in the project. Then we got the locations of our rooms. We got the name and number of our rooms. We took those locations and we placed our 3D room tag in those locations. Then we took those new 3D room tags and we filtered in our name, or we input our names from our room elements and we input our numbers from our room elements. And then it's good to go. All right, so the big test here. Let us I'm going to move this out of the way so you guys can see it happening live. I'm going to click run. Of course, you have to make sure that your 3D room tag is loaded into your project. And there you go. Placed in the right location throughout the project. And that's it. That's how you place 3D room tags using Dynamo. So again, if you're interested in this, please check out my blog and the links below. Shoot me a message if you have any questions, or comment below. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And I hope to talk to you guys later. Thanks a lot.